Okay. Okay, we want to welcome everyone to our West Haven City Council meeting. Today is June 3rd of 2026, and it is 6:06 p.m. We're excited to have everyone here, and thank you for being with us tonight, whether you're online or in person here. We also want to thank our staff for being here. The council, having everyone here is great, and also Lieutenant Ensley for the Sheriff's Department. We appreciate your presence here. We'll get started tonight with our opening ceremonies. Our flag ceremony will be by Councilmember Call, and our prayer or moment of silence will be by Councilmember Saunders.
Please stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we come before thee at this time and are grateful for the blessings that we have. We're grateful for this beautiful city that we live in. We're grateful for the freedoms that we enjoy, and grateful for the moisture that we've received recently. And we're thankful for our law enforcement and for those who protect us and watch over us. We ask a blessing to be with us as we make decisions for the city, that we will do so with the best interest of our citizens in mind, and ask for thy guidance in all that we do, and say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Call and Councilmember Saunders. Appreciate that very much. We'll move on to item 3, public presentation. Residents attending this meeting will be allotted 3 minutes to express a concern or ask a question about any issue that is not on the agenda. No action can or will be taken on any items or issues presented. Do we have anyone that would like to come forward at this time? Come on up, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Tyler Peterson. I live on 3417 South, 2700 West. I'm here in regards to the Sunset Farms development. I'm having a hard time getting consistent communication with the city on the struggles that I'm having and just trying to get this done to create something good for the city. I just got an email from the city attorney here while I was sitting here. It's 22 days to get any sort of response. The only one who did respond was Mr. Nelson over here. He had actually took a call and said, hey, I think they're trying to figure something out. He's the only one that answers his phone. And I do appreciate that of him. Even though I might have disagreements on how this is being handled, I appreciate that someone is answering their phone. It's embarrassing that I have to wait 22 days to get any sort of response. Hey, we're working out an answer. We're working through this. We'll get back to you. Is it that hard? Really? I don't like having to get up here and do this, but what else am I gonna have to do? You know what I mean? Like getting one answer just to get this solved, get this done. Please review your city staff. I have to fight and fight and fight to get responses. And this is not the first time I've been here. You guys have seen me here usually every month, every 6 weeks, that I have to get a response from someone because it's taking weeks and weeks and weeks, and it's dragging this on and on and on. This isn't professional. This is not reflective of what this city is. A great place. Please review that with your employees. Please see if there's a way to improve communication so that we can get things done faster. I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Item 4, upcoming events that we have. Our chalk art, our mini workshop, that'll be held at the community center at the barn. That'll be on June 8th, and that is at 6 o'clock p.m. So if you got people that are wanting to get involved with chalk art, make sure they're there. Our Miss Rodeo West Haven will be held at the Kenneth Baldwin Country Park on June 11th, and that starts at 4 p.m. And that's where they'll be doing the arena, the horse part of the Queen contest. And it's a fun evening to come to that. So if you would like to come and watch, or if you want to participate, make sure that you are, at the age category that you can come and do that, and we're excited to have you involved with that. We also have our music circle that will be at the Barn Community Center as well on June 22nd at 7 p.m. We have our senior lunch bunch that will be on June 24th, and that date we will have a chicken salad croissant, macaroni and cheese and fruit. I don't know how you could pass that up possibly for $5. So if any council members want to attend, please let us know in advance for that. But we'd love to have as many seniors out as possible. We've been getting a pretty good crowd on that. We also have our West Haven Days coming up. And that will be at the Country Park. A good majority of it. It's from June 24th to the 27th. And we've got a lot of activities that will be coming out on the newsletter. So make sure that you review the calendar and make sure that you get involved with the community. We're looking forward to it this year. It's going to be a fun event with America 250 involved. We also have our Weber County elections that will be coming up. The mail-in ballots are out. We hope that everyone participates in their civic duty to get involved with that as well. And I know that the ballots have to be turned in before June 23rd, before 8 p.m. that day. So looking forward to that as well. Anything else that we missed on the upcoming events? Okay, we'll move on to item 5, our council updates. Does the council have anything they want to share with the public? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 6, action on consent agenda. Our council meeting minutes were held on April 28th at 2026, and our council meeting minutes were held on May 6th of 2026. We also have item C, Knife River is for $65,964, and that's for the 5100 West project. And that's what we have for our consent agenda. So if there's any questions from the council, now's the time to ask. If not, I'm ready for a motion.
I have one change on the April 28th minutes. It lists the mayor as present, but he was actually excused.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. All right, I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda A, B, and C.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the council on any of these items? Okay, we'll do a roll call on this one. Councilmember Dixon?
Aye.
Councilmember Morse?
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders?
Aye.
Councilmember Call?
Aye.
And Councilmember Schwab?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries on that. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 7, action on Planning Commission meeting recommendations. Item A is action on ordinance 11-2026, amendment to the zoning map from mixed use to C2 at 1670 West 21st Street. And the parcel numbers given there, and we'll turn that over to our community development, Stephen.
Thank you. So the proposed application as stated on the agenda is the applicant is seeking to rezone their property from mixed use to C2, which is community commercial. The property is located at 1670 West on 21st Street. The main reason the applicant is requesting this is currently under the current zoning mixed use, they would be allowed to pursue their proposed use, except they would have to do a mixture of uses on the property. So they could essentially do their use, but then have like apartments on top, or whatever else would comply with the mixed use code. Because their property is it's about 0.5 to 0.6 acres, because of how small it is, they believe that the mixed use isn't part of their plan. It's not something they would like to pursue. And so they're requesting to change it to C2 zone, which under our mixed use code, all commercial uses have to comply with C2 as well. The applicant is proposing to do they're proposing to do a restaurant that will be serving alcohol. The staff, and under our initial conversation with the applicant, we classified the use that would likely be more closely tied to a tavern or bar, which is also a conditional use in the zone. However, based on our conversations with the applicant, who is here with us today, and based on their letter that they sent to the Planning Commission on May 27th, and upon their request, they believe that the use is more likely tied to more closely related with a restaurant that serves alcohol on premise. The applicant indicated that, and so part of the use of this is they have the restaurant front, but they also are proposing to brew and create their own ciders that will be served at the facility or at the establishment as well. So when looking at the surrounding zoning, the properties to the north, east, and west are all zoned as mixed use, with a variety of uses from commercial to to a couple single family homes around it. And then across the street would be C2 with mostly commercial uses. Because the property is planning to serve alcohol beverages, they would have to comply with the state's proximity restrictions that's managed through the DABS program, so Department of Alcohol Beverage Service. Essentially, what this indicates, depending on the use, they have to be located so many feet from community locations. These would be things such as churches and schools. There is a school located across and down the street, and a historic church building that my understanding is that it's now a residence with a
That's right.
business in it. That's located down the street and no longer actively used as a church. The property lines of the uses are over 300 feet from the proposed zone. The distance requirements for most of these, for these type of establishments is measured from the property line of the public location to the patron entrance of the property. Or it could be, and there's normally a shorter distance from as the crow flies, and then there's a longer distance for the most viable pedestrian route. And so that would be administered through the DABS or through the Department of Alcohol and Beverage Services, and we would require that as part of the site plan approval process. So when we're looking at the criteria for the zone change and looking at the proposed uses, the petitioner, their proposal plans to follow what our current general plan map has indicated. If you look at the general plan map, the property is actually split between two designations, with the front being C2 and the back being C3. So the applicant's request is compatible with the general plan map. And so as part of the petition process, the applicant is also required to provide a concept plan and a proposed use for that. The applicant has provided that, and also a little packet that was attached to the staff report that kind of talks about their business plan, what they're wanting to accomplish with the application. So I do want to take a note as we're talking about this right now to talk about access and parking. So the property fronts 21st Street, which is a UDOT controlled roadway. As such, there is limitations on what their access is. And most property owners that develop a commercial business are required to try to combine as much access points as possible. UDOT's end goal is to reduce the number of access points onto their roadways. There is a historic access with the property. When that property was a residential use, UDOT has indicated to them that that's likely not going to be honored, and that their recommendation at this point, though there hasn't been an official pre-application meeting, there hasn't been official findings, their initial conversations have indicated that they want the property owner to share access with K-Bell, which is the property owner to the north and directly to the west. There's an access drive there. And so this is why when you look at the site plan, there's not a access that goes directly out onto 21st Street. And the applicant has indicated that they want to do the restaurant up front and the parking behind. As you may have seen, a letter came in from one of the K-Bell owners who indicated that they did not have any desire to share access at this point. They also had an individual representing them that came to the public hearing who indicated they weren't opposed to the zone change, but they were opposed to the shared access. So I mean, I do think this was a big point of contention amongst the Planning Commission under this discussion on and how to move forward with this. As staff, so as you might have seen, or as you've seen in our staff report below, our current site plan development process requires that they obtain a conditional use or conditional access permit from UDOT as part of the site plan, which is essentially a permit indicating where their access is, what that access looks like. And they wouldn't be allowed to obtain site plan approval without that. However, the access to the property is an important consideration and its impact on the surrounding community. And so when looking at the other, let's see if there's anything else.
This access will only be allowed if the K-Belt allows them to do it.
I can't speak on behalf of UDOT. UDOT has indicated their preference and potential requirement is that they do a shared access agreement. But
They
I
can't
don't think
require
they,
them to,
I
though.
don't think they can require K-Bell to share that access point. UDOT, and I know UDOT looks at several factors. Like I said, we haven't had anything official from UDOT other than the initial conversations the applicant has had with them regarding that access point. We typically will require official minutes from meetings with UDOT as part of the preliminary application indicating what their access should be. And before final, we would require a conditional access permit. For instance, we just did a final site plan approval for called it Super 8. There's that gas station off 21st Street that they're currently tearing down. They just got their final site plan approval last week from the Planning Commission. And as part of that, they had to get rid of, they had 2 access points on 21st. UDOT required them to close one, and they were able to achieve a shared access with the storage facility next to them. So UDOT wanted them to eliminate those 2 accesses, and the property owners were able to figure something out to get to that second access. And before final approval, we required that we receive that full-on conditional access permit. And so I guess it's this, as the city's standpoint, it's a little bit difficult to judge because it really comes down to what UDOT will allow and won't allow for that access onto the property. And that kind of brings to the Planning Commission comments. So the Planning Commission held the public hearing on May 13th. At the meeting, there were 4 public comments raising concerns about access, the impact of the proposed use, traffic, and whether the establishment would be able to gain proper licensing from the state due to its proximity to a school. There was also concerns about access, as UDOT has indicated, as the proposed development may need to share an access with a drive located on the west side of the property. At that meeting, the Planning Commission tabled the application to allow the applicant time to consider the comments and to respond, which the applicant provided the letter on the 27th. On the May 27th meeting, the Planning Commission heard the item again, discussed the merits of the proposal, and reviewed the letter provided by the applicant. The Planning Commission recommended that the City Council deny the proposed zone change 4-3, primarily citing concerns about the limited access to the property for commercial use and the possible impact on the proposal would have on the community and on the surrounding community. So staff recommends that the City Council consider what the general plan states, what our current standards are, our review process, and take into account the Planning Commission's recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Does the council have questions for Stephen on this?
So I'm trying to understand, just looking at the map here, where there's a shared access, if it were allowed.
If you look at the aerial
It's on
map,
our
it
map.
shows it a little bit better.
Right here.
That's on the first
On the
page.
road?
No, so there is that driveway that's located directly.
The 1550 West is a private driveway.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, that's not a public roadway.
And so if UDOT were to require them to share access, that's likely where it would be. And then K-Bell would have to give permission. Is that correct?
Mhm.
But I don't see UDOT forcing K-Bell to give. It's going to be totally up to K-Bell as to whether or not they give access or not.
Right.
This is not a,
And totally up to UDOT whether they require that.
yeah, I mean, we're not talking about a road widening project where they're, UDOT's making people, combine their accesses. This is totally up to K-Bell as to whether or not they would be willing to do that. And right now, it's based upon public hearing and also email. K-Bell saying
No.
no. But UDOT could always say, yeah, you can have your own, but that's something we can't control.
So basically, right now, we're just looking at the zone change. We're not looking at anything else other than the zone change.
Correct. And I also believe, I mean, this is my opinion, is that the access problem currently exists. Under the current zoning, they could propose a similar or more impactful use. So
That's, yes.
either way, they're going to have to figure out the access to the site.
And remind me, sorry, Stephen, of what the zoning is around it.
It's all mixed use
Uh,
around it. Has a
Except
variety,
for
except for,
Across the
yep,
street.
across the
Except
street
for-
is C2.
C2 here, C3 here.
That was some.
It's
And then
the
you've got the
same
mixed use because there's all of
down
those
the street.
apartments and townhomes.
It splits up and down the whole street there.
Yeah.
Between
Like the,
C2 and
the
mixed use.
general plan is really looking at C2, and frankly,
This
these
is the property itself right here. So
slots are just so skinny that it's just, C2, I think, is actually appropriate because how do you put two
Mixed use.
uses on these long
Agreed.
skinny lots?
Any other questions for Stephen? If not, we do have you folks here. If you'd like to come up and, do you have any comments or anything at this point? If you don't have to come up by any means, but thought I would offer that. And just address your name and address for the record, please.
Yep, done that before. I'm Craig Odekirk. My address is 4620 South, 1075 East in Ogden, Utah. I own the property on 21st Street there. I've owned that for about 5 years. And we've been negotiating with K-Bell for a long time. And the reason K-Bell doesn't want to share is because they want to buy my property. And they're putting all pressure that they can to get it. They use their property pretty much in the morning when they go out and do stuff during the day. Our business would be pretty much in the evening after theirs are gone, so there would be no conflict for what they're doing and how we would interact. Our business doesn't have a lot of large trucks that would go in and out on a regular basis. It would be a very infrequent kind of a thing. We even got to the point where we were dealing with K-Bell and we were trying to do a land trade. There's a corner piece that's 2 lots to the east where they have that big entrance to that big development that they did. And they were going to buy that from the owner and we were going to trade mine for theirs and pay the difference if there was any. But for some reason that didn't come through. Our original plan there was to put in kind of a morning coffee place where people could drive in and have coffee and donuts and juice and stuff as they drove to work, but that didn't work out. So we're doing the best we can. We've even changed our plan a little bit. We've moved the entrance back, so it's a lot further away from any schools than the original plan was. It's right close to K-Bell now on the entrance. And do you have any questions for me?
Any questions? Yeah.
Well, we pass that down to Steven.
Sorry.
I'll send you an electronic copy when I get home.
Okay, thank you.
Not seeing a huge difference from this original one that we have in our packet.
Well, the big thing is that the entrance to the restaurant is in the back instead of the front.
Okay, so it's entering back in here where the parking is? Is that what you're saying?
No, the entrance is, back, right next to where the parking is.
Yeah, back here.
Yep.
Where the green is, the green on the,
Yep, where the green and the red and the yellow are.
got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
One more thing, we do have a meeting with UDOT scheduled next week. Preliminary something to get things moving. They're a bit difficult to work with, but we're working.
I do have a question for you on this letter that you sent in. You said that you were mainly a restaurant, but in all the documents, it lists restaurant as 15 to 20% of the business.
Say again?
These documents that are in the packet list the cider as 50% and the restaurant as 20% of the business.
Well,
So
that's when I have two sons and they each put different things together and sometimes they don't talk to me. But the restaurant's going to be the biggest part of the business right now. Maybe 5 years from now or when the Olympics come, maybe we can, sell the product to the Utah distribution center for alcohol, or we can sell it out of state or whatever. But most of all, it's going to be a small part of the restaurant business right now.
Utah law requires for it to be a restaurant anyway, requires that anybody entering the business eat. So if it's listed as a restaurant, then obviously you would have to follow Utah law regarding folks eating.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So let me just make sure that I understand this one more time. We are just voting on the zoning change, right? We do
Right.
not have to concern ourselves with
Right.
any of this other stuff.
No,
Okay.
I mean, I don't think the K-Bell issue is our issue. The UDOT issue is not our issue.
The zoning. is our
That's
issue.
something they'll have to work out. That's the way I see it. Did you have something you wanted to say as well? Can you just take the microphone?
Just again, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, I'm the first son he was talking about. My name is Jason Dana of the family Odekirk. I'm domiciled at 3267 Monroe Boulevard near Ogden. So just a little bit of clarification. I know we've been hanging up on a lot of this, that, or the other, and we're jumping the gun quite a bit. I would like you to kind of consider what we're putting there as more of an Olive Garden, more of a sit-down family. There's more spaces to bring your family to sit down, eat, and enjoy the food. The proposal you had was kind of put together on the fly a little bit because of the time nature and the lack of clarification between the city and us on that one. When we're looking at our projected revenue, we're looking at about 70 to 75% from food. We're not planning to distribute out of the restaurant. What we produce in the restaurant is going to be sold in the restaurant. If we want to look at distribution, it will be a separate facility on a different piece of land, whether it be in West Haven or not. But the restaurant will produce the restaurant, and that's where it's going to say on that one. So we want to, make sure we're producing very well for the community. We want to be very respectful of our neighbors on that one. UDOT's primary thing, and that's one of the first things they say is they do not deny access on that one. So I'm positive we're going to get some kind of a resolution. Some of the initial proposals is just to expand that existing drive path. So, we actually have just that entrance, it goes onto our land, but it's not an extra access point. So we're just expanding that drive path. That's the primary plan we're proposing to UDOT, and preliminary is positive. I won't say for sure until we actually get something in writing, but the preliminary is positive on that one. So, You know, our goal is to bring good food, good comfort food to West Haven, serve the city, serve the community of West Haven. You know, with the good family business, support our veterans. You may have noticed the name is Colonel Craig Cider House. This is going to be veteran owned, veteran designed, all that good fun stuff, and offering a very specific, you know, cider product that is made in house, and then bringing other things in. Yes, under the purview of state of Utah and all those good rules and regulations on that one. So. We've done some preliminary studies, and I think we will have no problems meeting what the state requires, distance and otherwise, when it comes to the community. So, but of course, we'll get with them as appropriate. But that's kind of what I would like you to look at when you look at us is another Applebee's, but you know, family restaurant is what I would like you to kind of consider us as when you're looking at us on that one. So, but yeah, right now we're very structured. We want point A to point B to point C. That actually helps us to plan. We're trying to go from point A to point B with the rezone on that one. So that's kind of what we're focusing on. And I thank the council for hearing my voice.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions, council? On direction?
Statement. I'm excited to get rid of one more mixed use zone. So
I'd be happy to do so as well.
absolutely.
It doesn't make any sense to have that there.
No.
No, and the way I see it is that we can have a restaurant there, we can have an apartment building there, and I will take a restaurant there any day over an apartment building.
I'm excited to try the cider.
Any other questions from the council?
Nope.
Okay, I guess at this point, we're ready for a motion. Legal counsel, did you have anything else for us at all?
No, I think that we've pretty much covered, unless somebody has any questions for me.
Thank you. Right, I'm ready for a motion.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 11-2026. Rezoning certain property within the city from mixed use to C2, amending the zoning map of the city and providing an effective date. Is that right?
Yep.
Do I need to provide an effective date?
No.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the council on this particular item from the recommendation from the planning? Okay, we'll do a roll call on this one. Councilmember Dixon?
Aye.
Councilmember Morse?
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders?
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab?
Aye.
And Councilmember Call.
Nay.
Okay, we got passes on there, so thank you for that. Thank you for being here. It looks like you've got a pass on that for the zone change.
Be sure to invite us to your ribbon cutting. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to our next item on here. Item B, action on ordinance 12-2026, change to Title 15 land usage, home occupation, including 157.880 through 157.883. We'll turn this back over to Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. So the proposed change that's in front of you is an update and a pretty extensive modification of our home occupation chapter within our zoning code. One of the main reasons for this is that we as staff and as the planning commission felt like several businesses are coming through that did not really fit what we would determine as a home occupation. And part of that was because there was a lot of broad exceptions to some of the rules. Because essentially, if your home occupation didn't meet the normal standard of what a home occupation, what our code defined, there was a conditional use permit process that they could go through that was pretty broad and had a lot of general guidelines, but not a lot of really strict interpretations or strict standards, which under state code provides a lot of power to the applicant and less ability for the city to put conditions on it. And so we felt like this was something that we should consider changing. And so after doing several workshops with the planning commission and a lot of discussion internally, we created an ordinance, and it is now in front of the council after the planning commission gave a positive recommendation on it. I will talk, there were 2 dissenting votes on the recommendation, and I'll talk about, they indicated both votes indicated one reason why they dissented, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. So as you go through the ordinance, you'll see one of the main things that we did kind of with that goal is we decided, we looked at where we were having the biggest issues with our condition, with our home occupation, and then how do we further define that. So one of the biggest issues that we had, well, I might just start kind of in order from the top to the bottom. So really the applicability was mostly just clarification. Oh, well.
Thought there was something bigger than that.
Lost my shoe. Where did it go? I'm not sitting there.
It's under the table.
I'm not sitting there.
I'll trade you.
That scared me.
For half a second, I thought it was a mouse that ran through.
Get down there and find it.
Recess.
Yeah. I have no idea.
Did it come from the ceiling or?
I don't know. I thought it came from under Kim's papers, but I think maybe it came from underneath the. Oh, so I saw it on the top.
Want me to trade you?
I'll just sit back for a little bit.
It won't bite much.
Carry on, carry on.
All right. So under the first section, just use, it's now applicability. A lot of it, you'll see that we took out, but most of the stuff that we took out has really just been moved to other sections. And we try to just use this section to kind of indicate where this is applied, and how this chapter is to be utilized. And so a lot of the big changes start happening in the required conditions. So the first couple of lines are more just clarification and kind of simplifying language, to make it a little bit more clear for what the conditions are that would be for a home occupation. One of the things that we had a goal on changing was our parking regulations, because currently, under the current home occupation, parking is a little bit broader, and how that is regulated, and even there's been different interpretations of what the parking standard meant. There's been some interpretation like it didn't really state like what a business related vehicle was. Was that a customer vehicle? Like we had somebody who opened up a salon but didn't have like a side yard, and so people just wanted to park in their driveway, or customers, and was that a business related vehicle? And there has been different interpretations of what that meant. So we wanted to really clarify that. So that's where we added section, it's under E, B, and C, and A actually. And so the first one in A, we clarified what a business related vehicle would be, which is business related utility vehicles, specialize in work vehicles and marked for business vehicles and trailers. And those are the ones that must be parked behind the front plane of the home, in a garage, or on a non-permeable surface, and then also can't be parked on the street. So under B is where we wanted to indicate like what visitor parking would be. So if you had a client, customer, employee, that essentially what we wanted to say is that you could use the driveway for that parking, but we wanted to put a limit on how many would be allowed at a time. So no more than 2 business related visitors could be allowed to park at the home at one time. This was also important because like we recently approved a conditional use permit for a landscape company essentially as a home occupation, who had 5 employees who were reporting to the home, which would be 5 cars, and they provided parking behind a fence for them, but it was still a larger impact, which that was allowed under the current standard. And so we thought limiting to 2, the reason why they picked 2 is like, let's say you had a hair salon or something at your home, and you have one customer shows up while another customer was still there, or potentially had 1 employee, then 1 customer came at the same time. So that way there would be some potential overlap could take place. We also,
Stephen, while you're right here,
yeah,
B says to park on a non-permeable surface behind the front plane of the home. But when you read A, we're never gonna get through this meeting.
Right there.
Guy's about to die.
Right?
Yeah.
Let Ryan do it.
Video.
Let Ryan do it.
You don't want me to use your hair? Look at this. I want to move this.
That's a good little
Gotta protect the Dr. Pepper.
I know.
I don't know. Probably Daddy Long.
No more interruptions.
I feel at ease.
Stay done.
Where was Edley at this whole time? He should have been over here.
Don't put your hand over there. It might be a little squishy.
Okay, carry on.
Hopefully iPhone 16 is getting a good show.
So back to where we were, if you look at A,
Okay.
essentially, you're saying they can park on a permeable surface like next to the driveway, but not necessarily behind the plane of the house. Is that the intention? Because it reads different. It's much more clear in B. If you
Yeah,
want them
so-
behind the plane of the house, then that should change the wording in A.
Yes, so the idea is that that they must be parked behind the front plane of the home, in a garage, or on a non-permeable surface. So the idea is that if you have a utility truck, it can't be parked in the driveway in front of the garage.
But they can still park in front of the house next to the driveway. Because that's essentially how I read this, because you change from behind the home, then to in a garage, and then to a permeable surface. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I mean, in B, it says it exactly, on a non-permeable surface located behind the front plane of the home.
So in B, we also have the on-site home occupation parking shall not be permitted directly in front of the home except in an existing driveway. So the idea is that if you have a driveway, you could still park in it for B. But you're right, maybe we could clarify A to ensure that, because the idea is that we don't want people parking their utility trucks or trailers in the driveway in front of the garage.
Right, so it needs to be behind a fence or behind the house. So
Yeah.
I just read that differently.
I think one's applying to business-related vehicles and one's related to visitors.
Correct.
We don't really want business trucks out front in a neighborhood, so.
That's what it says in B.
No, it says that in A.
Yeah, we could probably reword that. That must be parked behind the, or must be parked in a garage or on a non-permeable surface behind the front plane of the home.
Right,
And so just restructure the sentence.
correct.
Yeah.
Maybe nobody else reads it that way, but to me, they read differently. I mean, you just don't want to get caught up in a few words that were. So you just add there. Or move them. Must be parked behind the front plane of the home on a non-permeable surface in a garage and not on the street or in a garage.
We can make that change. That's a good, I think that's a, yeah, I think that makes sense.
Can I add a little bit to that on A as well?
Mhm.
Can we say that all vehicles related to the business that's seeking the permit? I'm seeing too many HOAs say that occupants of the home can't have their company work trucks in driveways. And I don't want that to be misinterpreted the way it's, I understand it, but I want nobody to challenge it, if that makes sense. So if someone in the home works for a construction company and they park in the driveway, it's a work vehicle. I don't want someone trying to say, hey, this right here says you can't have work vehicles in front of your house.
But I think that would only be if they have a home occupation license.
So specialized work
It's
vehicles
Vehicles related to,
and business vehicles and trailers related to the business.
Correct.
the home occupation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So add that word, those
Yeah,
words.
you could
Yeah.
change it
Correct.
to all home occupation or all business home occupation related. We could do
Or change all utility vehicles, specialized work vehicles and marked business vehicles and trailers related to the home occupation. So remove the all business related. Or remove business related. Put it at the end of the sentence and change it to home occupation related.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, we can definitely make those changes. Under C is new for parking for preschools and daycares and residential. So we have chapters that govern those uses. However, both those chapters don't have any parking requirements, and they both cite the home occupation for standards not otherwise listed. And so we felt that it would be appropriate to add some special parking regulations for daycare and preschool, since they are going to have, typically they have pick up and drop off times, and so you're going to have more than 2 customer related vehicles on the site at a time. And so that's why and a lot of times that may be on the street too, as people stack or whatever. And so that's why we added section C, which that they shall provide a parking plan for each application, that on pickup and drop off, on-street parking is permitted for preschools and daycares and residential areas for vehicles parked less than 15 minutes. And then on-street parking shall comply with our regulations that are within our code. And then employee parking and all other additional parking shall comply with provisions of the home occupation within this chapter. And so we felt like that might be a blind spot in our code, so we wanted to add something in to clarify what those standards would be. Items G through pretty much the rest of the section, a lot of the other items in the section are already incorporated into the code, have just been moved. So our other big set of changes starts in 157.883 under special restrictions. And this is where we felt like our code wasn't super clear on what type of businesses we would allow and what we wouldn't. It was all about maybe potential impact. And even the impact wasn't greatly, it wasn't greatly clarified. So we tried to do that under the special restrictions. So under section A, we list a whole bunch of uses that part of these are driven by who's applied, and part of these are things that we anticipated. And then, like for instance, like event centers. Sometimes people want to hold event centers in their in their yards, do like weddings or whatever else, and that's pretty impactful. However, one of the things that we wanted to do was provide kind of a catch-all that under AJ, it states that any use that is permitted or conditional exclusively in any of the combination of the following zones, unless otherwise permitted in the subchapter. So essentially, and then it lists C2, C3, M1, M2. What this does is any commercial use that's coming in, if it is not allowed in C1, it would essentially not be permitted. And so the idea that would capture things like a landscape company, those type of things. So if you wanted to use the home for things that are more impactful, that we would only allow in our more impactful commercial zones, then we wanted to cover that without having to cover potentially every use that somebody may come in with. But we did feel like it might be appropriate to list out a few things for clarification.
I would like to add to the self-storage facilities, which I understand we have a definition of already, but it's in a different ordinance, right? And somebody's coming to look at this, can we also just include outdoor open air storage such as trailers, watercraft, whatever, all of those, or RV? just so it's here. I
Good,
mean, so we
yeah.
have a definition for self-storage, but it's a totally different ordinance.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, that's something we can definitely do. I mean, and just we put our self-storage definition in our general definitions that covers the entire land use chapter. But I do agree that if we added open storage, that just clarifies that anybody came to this ordinance would.
Correct.
Do we have definitions for some of these that are listed elsewhere?
No, I think also, I mean, what exactly is it? Equipment rental? I think in the city, we currently have somebody that stores dumpsters on their property and are renting them. Is that considered equipment,
So
right? Do we add those kind of things that we specifically know about right now? Just like you've done this because there have been people that have come or that we are aware of. There's also somebody that rents porta potties. Does anybody want those stored in their backyard? No.
So I would consider like porta potties and dumpsters equipment.
But is that defined somewhere, like Ryan's saying, right? Are we gonna get caught in some sort of definition issue that says, no, nobody says I can't store a dumpster here?
That's
Sort
a
of
good
the-
question. because
Sort of
when-
the issue that we run into when we list it is we sort of imply that everything else is allowed, but I get it. You got the catch-all kind of in J, so that's good, but I'm wondering like if somebody would argue over what an event center is or.
And so we also added, I think L is new. This is in the section above, that outdoor storage of merchandise or material is not permitted. I think that could also cover it. But we could, I guess our definition section is kind of in our our definition section for our land use chapter. I wouldn't say is as thorough as others I've seen in some ways. So we have a lot of uses that aren't really defined. And Dan mentioned that you had this question. Our code enforcement officer brought this up to me earlier today, and I did a little bit of like just Googling mostly. And in many cases, like a lot of equipment, including porta potties or dumpsters, would fall under an equipment category. But because I was trying to think, he brought that, I was like, I don't know what I define though. And so I started looking up. In most
Right.
cases, it is defined as equipment, but we can maybe look and see if there's ways that maybe we can
Well, I
specifically
did
call
talk to
out.
him about this because he's the one that has to enforce it. And if it doesn't have the teeth in it, then somebody can keep all those dumpsters on their property. Right? So I just want to make sure that we have the right information, because when I think of equipment, I think of backhoes and tractors and not a porta potty. But I mean, it could be, right? But again,
Even hazardous
we-
waste. I mean, because I consider porta potties a possible hazardous waste.
or
That's
appliances. What if somebody's doing appliance repair and they're keeping those on their property and they start stacking them up? Is that equipment? Is an appliance a piece of equipment?
Yeah, so I looked up the appliance question actually earlier, and appliance repair and service is not permitted in the C1. It's specifically listed in C2 and C3 and our industrial zone. So I think we would have something that we could, because I know we have a property owner that's currently an issue. And so I know, like, I think based on how this is written, I think we could exclude them based off of that standard.
We make it clear enough that you won't have to defend ourselves.
Yeah.
It's what Amy's in the
So-
business of doing.
So I think one thing maybe we can do is maybe try to provide a little bit more clarity on what equipment and outdoor storage means. That seems to be kind of the key point. And I think, honestly, I think we could probably make it pretty simple and define more clearly.
I would be a little
So-
concerned about defining it too much, because then someone comes in and they're like, I looked at this, every definition, this doesn't fall within that. So, I mean, I think in some ways we still have to be a little broad on the definitions.
What? Yeah.
I think things like the events place would be ruled out because of parking. So I mean, there are things that would already be not allowed just because they don't have the parking or they have too many cars.
Yeah. Yeah, and so the city manager, by within our code is given the interpretation authority over the land use table or their designee, and generally Sean has granted me that authority as uses have came in to kind of make that interpretation on how to classify something. So I do think yeah, I do think we could clarify it a little bit more, but generally speaking, I think this covers quite a bit of the potential hazards that we've ran into. However, I'm happy to, or we're happy to take a stab at it and see if we can provide something that would be adequate to resolve some of the concerns.
Stephen, how many porta potties and dumpsters can I have on my property if I don't have a home occupation license with the city? And I have a business in Ogden that does that. I just have a bunch at my house.
I'm not sure I've ever had to answer that question. I know in one other organization I worked in, we had that as an issue where it wasn't a home occupation, but they were bringing home they had a flatbed of porta potties that they parked at the side of their house for work. And because they didn't have a home occupation, we used another code to enforce it. I'm not sure right off bat, I don't know what we would use.
Maybe the nuisance.
I think, yeah, there's probably some nuisance standards. I know we have a few. We also have some standards about equipment storage on property that we could look at. I don't know if it directly addresses that issue though.
Okay.
Are you looking to store porta potties?
You never know. When you need one, a convenient one's always a great thing.
Yeah, I can do some research and see what we would do in that case.
So would you prefer that we table this and do a little bit more work on it, Stephen?
Yeah, there's already a few points of clarification that I have down, so I'd like to bring back a clean document at the next meeting, if that's okay. I do have a couple other items that I would like to review and get the council's feedback on.
One thing Steve and I would recommend too is just clarifying what an acre actually consists of on some of these things, because we've had people come in assuming that they had the 0.92 acre. And I think we've had some denials on some things due to that acreage verbiage that we may need to just define.
I believe that's already, because I know that has been a problem in the past, and I'll look real quick, but I believe that's already defined within our ordinance. Yeah, because I've had this discussion with somebody and I had to look it up once.
I think we've denied people with the 0.92, and it had to be, I think, the full acre. Is that correct?
42,000.
Yeah.
square.
So our
Yeah.
code defines acre as a parcel of land containing 43,560 square feet, regardless of the actual configuration of the parcel.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want it listed? Do you want it listed again in the home occupation in that
I think
section?
it's helpful because the denials that have happened have been because it's been a little bit technical, whether it was yay or nay with the size. And I think it's just important to have it clarified,
Okay.
because we don't want people coming in and saying, geez, I bought an acre of ground, but it's not actually the full acre.
Yeah.
Just like a half acre, you sometimes get that too.
I think the thing to consider is, do we want car repair
Yeah, that was going to be
in residential and agricultural zones? It's a commercial business. And it's so hard for all the neighbors to enforce.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel for these people that want to do this, but it always turns into a problem. That's what we hear about, is the problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That reminds me, I don't know if anyone else had this concern. I agree with what Carrie's saying, but we do have some that have been allowed. And I feel like the renewal is a little bit strict. I don't know if anyone feels like, because if they don't renew, they would have to come back in under the new ordinance,
Yep.
like in time, right? So I don't know if anyone else has a concern with that. My concern is that somebody that's been doing it for 20 years, they happen to miss by a day and then they gotta come in. And I don't know if that's a concern for anyone else, but I don't know if there's anything we could do that way to make it a little bit less stringent. Maybe if there's a grace period, they could still be grandfathered in. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anybody else feel that way? Or do you just want, if they don't renew their business license, they're just out?
I
You have to
do
stay
not want to do that to somebody that's been doing it for a long time.
But rules are rules. And you have to kind of look at the rules too.
If you remove this, are they even allowed to? Is there a grandfathering or now it's just a sorry you
Yeah,
can't?
they would, if they've secured a business license or a conditional use permit through the city, as long as its use is active in accordance with the conditions of the issuance of that license, they'd be able to continue even if we made it illegal, or even if we changed the code to not allow it.
So maybe one option would be, I don't know, how many are there? Do we know? Do we have any idea?
I don't know right off bat, but it's a handful or so.
So I wonder if we did do this and stay with the verbiage that we have, that if we just notified them that, hey, just so you're aware, if you don't renew the business license, these are the new rules that you would have to comply with.
Yeah.
Something like that. How does everybody feel about that? Because I also understand what the mayor's saying, it's the rule. You gotta follow it, but just concerns me that somebody that's,
Well, the other thing too, and
maybe they're a older person too, and they kind of forget or whatever, but if they're notified, hey, this is the change,
I think he's direct.
then there's little excuse, right?
Yeah, and I mean,
I was just gonna say to Ryan's point, if someone doesn't renew because they're in the hospital, they got ill, something happened, they're out of the country. I don't know what it is, but for whatever reason, I would hate for them to build an entire life on this business, not renew on time, and then now they're out of business. That's to your point.
Yeah.
yeah, so we do have some discretion on when to revoke business license or termination of a business license. And so generally speaking, I don't even know of a time that we have revoked one for being just late on a renewal, made them re-go through a process. So there are a couple other things that come to mind that beyond that, if you wanted to codify something, you could potentially put in special conditions that non-conforming business licenses that currently exists, that if they don't renew, they have like 6-month period to renew before, or I don't know, there's a few things that we could potentially do. Amy doesn't think to like that idea.
Well, I
30
frankly,
days or something.
there's some mechanics in the city that are causing huge problems. And so I don't see the ones that, like what you guys are talking about, the ones who've been running it for like 20 years, they're not giving any problems to their neighbors, but there's some ones that are giving some significant
Yeah,
issues.
and I agree with, I'm kind of on both sides of this because I've never thought that mechanic shops were a great idea in neighborhoods. But I also, realize that we have allowed it and just am looking for how do we work with them if they miss for, a couple days or something like that.
A lot of difference would be if they've had violations maybe, or complaints or issues, and they haven't actually tried to correct or fix those. If you had something come up, that might change the the direction, but makes it really hard, I think, to have that type of a business if they're doing, because it seems like I get those calls. The city gets those calls. We, you know, we have to deal with those as well, and they're really tough to deal with when you've got noise ordinances and timeliness of the time they start and the time they end. So I don't know. It's really a difficult one, I think, to put into verbiage, but I think you have to establish some type of rule and, you know, so that your city doesn't get out of control with some of these businesses that
I
are.
agree.
Well, I think the enforcement part of it is we don't have enough here to enforce it.
or
Right, if you're,
weekends.
yeah, you're telling them they can't after 6 o'clock. For most people, this isn't their full-time job, right? They can have legally three cars. They're not making a living doing that. So they're doing this after hours and we don't have a code enforcement after hours, right? He can't obtain registrations. Like he can't make verifications.
Yeah.
He can't. So, and the homeowner doesn't have to give them unless we put maybe something here. Amy, you can somehow do that, that he
Oh,
they
mean-
have to give that information because we have somebody, different issue, but they're storing RVs or trailers on their property,
Yeah.
but they're all family members. All 6 trailers belong to family members. Right?
which. we
And
have.
We do have that.
Dan can't get
Carried.
the information.
Oh,
So-
and the ones that, a couple of the ones that, and this is kind of a minority, but a couple of the ones that were having issues, they are treating it as their full-time job. So we have a full-time operating, mechanic shop in
With
town.
tons of cars on the property.
Yep. And, and so trying to work through that. So that's
Yeah.
kind of the balance of, yeah, there's a couple of people who are doing it after hours and they're just, it's just on the side. And then you have the people who are really the problem are the ones that,
Or making a full-time business out of it, yeah.
and the bigger problem too is that because of the cost of property has gone up so much that, these home occupation things are becoming so much more attractive because, being able to operate your.
Yeah, and that's one of my other
business.
concerns, is that there's some kind of unfair advantage to some of these guys because other businesses are, having to go and get commercial property. And these guys are kind of, I don't know, getting around that.
And that's, but it's, to the detriment of these residential areas. And
I
that's-
agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for a way for
So
us to offer some kind of grace to the guy that does it occasionally, that's maybe retired and
Doing it right.
doing it in a way that's, not really bothering the neighbors. So that's my only, if there's a way
And-
to work around that.
kind of speak to that. The current conditions listed under it are generally the same. However, the planning commission added the 2 additional conditions. The hours of operation are more limited than what our code requires. That's a new addition. And then also the test operation of any vehicles in a public right of way, they shall be conducted in accordance with the local and state code. Because I know that was one of the issues brought up. So that was kind of the compromise that the planning commission came to keep it in the ordinance. But once again, I think staff's general recommendation would be that we found them to be problematic and we wouldn't necessarily, they're difficult to enforce on. And
Yeah.
we understood that this was, the current language was kind of a compromise a couple of years ago. However, our recommendation would be to remove it completely.
I agree with that. What is the consensus with the council on the already existing, business on the renewals? Does anyone see I know Nina agrees, but
Yeah, I agree with you, but I also don't agree with the 6 months.
yeah,
I just kind of see that as an example. I guess what I'm saying is we wouldn't necessarily revoke a license for being a day late, but
More than 30 days late.
yeah, I don't know if there's a time frame that you'd want to put in there or something that give us guidance for how to be consistent.
30 days.
What is the current notification timeline? Do they get notified 30 days out, 90 days out?
I say that's a Yeah, they have to renew in the month of January, I believe. Yeah,
So there's pretty good grace period there anyway, right?
things dictated by
So
code.
maybe
though.
it's not a concern.
Did you say it's not dictated by
Yeah,
code
the code,
currently?
I don't think dictates that type of
Probably would
schedule.
want that.
More of an administrative process.
Yeah. Is that they're required to get an annual license and we have an annual renewal fee, and so staff has or at some point the city created an administrative process for that renewal process.
I think it would be fair too, if we were going to give, say, a 30-day grace period, that during that 30 days, they would accrue some sort of late fee.
Yeah. I believe our schedule.
Because if we're gonna be nice enough to give them a grace period, they should at least pay for that.
That's
Therese, what is the policy? Can they pay late fees for forever, or do we cut them off?
Schedule.
Pay late fees? Accrue them, or it's just once and then it's done?
I didn't mean like accrue like on a daily rate, but
Say somebody didn't renew their business license last year and they came in to renew it this year, they would have to pay last year's license fee plus the late fee and then this year's license fee for all at once. So there's nothing saying you wouldn't reissue it again. As far as I know. It's been a-
I mean,
wondered.
most of our businesses are just permitted uses, and so we would still issue a business license as long as they are complying with the code. Sorry,
Okay,
I'm just looking
so
up our fee
Is there
schedule.
other items you want to try and specify for clarification?
Is the consensus to remove automotive repair or keep it?
I would like to remove it.
I'd be
Uh,
fine with removing it as well and grandfathering those
just
in.
Talking about the businesses that are already grandfathered, and
Yeah.
I'm fine removing it.
But we're gonna put that in home occupation ordinance, that if you already had an automotive repair as of such and such date, you get to keep it?
Well,
We want to have to, most of them already have conditional use permits.
You're just saying would do that in the office. Is that what you want? You just
Yeah.
want something in a policy, not in this ordinance?
I think that'd be fine. for
So
policy.
right now, for existing ones, if they were wanted to if for whatever reason they didn't renew, whatever it might be, we'd have to not only revoke the home occupation, but have to also revoke the conditional use permit, which has a separate process as well that has to go to the planning commission. And we have to provide, I can't remember what the code says, but some sort of good cause for and evidence of their violation of our standard.
Okay,
is there an appeals process for that?
okay. I think that probably covers it then.
I think so.
Hey,
Thank you.
anything else from the council?
Is that all you wanted to discuss with us, Stephen? Anything else you wanted?
No, the rest of the changes are more just clarifications of licensing process, and we do still have an exception process in there for use of an accessory structure that they need to get a conditional use permit for, but we provided a percentage of property of no more than 25% of the total property area. This came down from we had a home occupation that was denied where they wanted to do the largest gym in their backyard. They essentially wanted to open a Planet Fitness in their backyard. Had like 10 parking spaces, which we denied, and we denied for several reasons. And one of those was that it was no longer secondary. And when we took that, when they appealed that decision, and when we took it to the appeal, we had to argue why it wasn't secondary in nature anymore. And so as we were considering this, we're like, well, we should just create a standard for what that means. And we landed on, the planning commission and staff landed on no more than 25%. So that's a clarification to help make those discussions much clearer with property owners.
You want to take this back to planning for clarifications, or do you want to?
I think we can make the changes and bring it back at the next meeting.
Okay. Well, so I guess we'll go ahead and maybe plan on a table. Is that okay?
Mhm.
Well, I'm ready for a motion if we want to move forward with that.
So moved.
Second.
Hey, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries on that. Thank you for that. Okay, we'll move on to item C, action on ordinance 13-2026, change to Title 15 land usage for the PH zone residential patio homes, including the 5.7.411 through 5.7.1 or 419. Stephen, we're back to you again.
Thank you. So this proposal was requested by members of the Planning Commission, brought this up initially, and then after a discussion with the mayor, felt like it was appropriate to pursue as well. It was a clarification too. It started out as just changing one section of our patio home code, but turned into a little bit more extensive modification. So under our current ordinance, patio homes are allowed, well, as it currently reads, it says patio homes. Let's see if I can find the exact language. Currently, it says that dwellings or other main buildings shall be 25 feet. So currently it states that patio homes shall be 25 feet within the patio home zone. And then it stated habitable attic space is permitted over a garage area. However, it became our understanding after discussion that the initial intent from the Planning Commission and at least from several of the planning commissioners, that when this code was written, the idea was really to limit this to just a single story, and not just a 25-foot height limit. There is a patio home that got a building permit from the city, and it is 2 stories, but it does meet that 25-foot maximum. And so after some discussion, it was decided that we should make a change and just really clarify that the intent wasn't just to limit a maximum height of a structure to 25 feet, but to really limit it to a single story, then with the maximum height of 25 feet. And so that was the initial cause of why this code was brought in front of, brought in front of the Planning Commission. In our discussion and as we're reviewing it, we felt like there were a few other things that we wanted to clarify and just to make clear within the code. So the first change was to our, this is in the location of structures. This provided that detached accessory dwelling or buildings and garages would be limited to 200 square feet. However, it provided a few exceptions through like CC&Rs and stuff, and we didn't really want to deal with that. So we just clarified that the accessory buildings could only be 200 square feet. Which is up in the very first section, accessory uses and buildings only behind the home less than 200 square feet is a permitted use. And so we removed the kind of exceptions for that. We also put in, there is some new state code about accessory dwelling units. And so we added some language under state code to ensure that the zone still would comply with those state standards.
So are you saying patio homes could have an ADU?
Yeah, by code, we're supposed to by the new state ordinance, any lot that's larger than 11,000 square feet is required. We're supposed to allow for a detached accessory dwelling unit. We did talk about writing in some more specific standards for that, but in the end, we felt like due to the nature of most of the lots and their yard sizes, that they wouldn't likely be able to fit one on the property. And so we felt like the code governed itself pretty well already. Currently under the zone, there is a 0 lot line allowance that's under 415. You see, we removed the whole section. This essentially allow for a development. They could come in and seek a development agreement with the council to allow for like a townhome or some sort of combined housing unit. felt like the planning commission at the discussion, we felt like it'd be more appropriate to not necessarily handle this through a development agreement, but potentially create like a patio home too, or something in the future that would allow for a higher variety of homes. That would be a zoning designation instead of just an exception within a zoning code.
But if we remove that right now, anybody could right now then put in 0 lot line homes.
No, it wouldn't be allowed.
But it doesn't say that here anywhere. Doesn't say no 0 lot lines. Having that there gave us the option to say no to 0 lot lines, or we could say yes.
So currently under permitted uses, it has dwelling, single family detached. It doesn't have 0 lot lines listed as a permitted use. That's under 157.411. Yeah, and that's how most of our other single family or zones cover it. They don't specifically outline or outlaw attached housing units, but they just have detached structure or detached single family as permitted
And
uses.
Amy, why did we have this before if it already said that?
I'm sorry.
Why did we add that, Amy, if we already had detached dwellings in this code?
Why did we add the 0 lot lines in there?
Yeah, if it already said that they weren't allowed, why did we put them there that it was possible?
You're asking me the mysteries of the universe from 2023?
I know, but why did we do that?
I honestly don't remember why.
Because I think for the most part, everybody did not want 0 lot lines.
Well, and I don't know if you guys remember, but back, several years back, somebody came in
Yeah, and he
with
was
the
irate.
patio homes and wanted like the 4 cluster
Right.
things.
Right.
I honestly don't remember why it got put in. Mean, I'm not sure.
I mean, one thing we could potentially do to clarify if that, see, we don't have like a non-permitted section, but we could clarify somewhere in the ordinance that attached units, including 0 lot line units are not permitted as part of the zoning.
I would rather have that than this because to me, this gives too much leeway to have 0 lot lines.
Yeah, I've always looked at the 0 lot line section of the patio home ordinance as enabling language and not necessarily, essentially it wouldn't be allowed, in this provision made it so there was a possibility of that being
It was a
allowed.
possibility, but it wasn't a yes, you get it. The council had to agree to it.
Correct.
So it wasn't a
And-
for sure.
No, right, the council would have to agree to that, but we're all not gonna be sitting on this council forever. I mean, there's always gonna be a new council coming in. I guess, you can always they can always change the ordinances too, but I agree with Stephen that to me, that's enabling language or that's saying, hey, it's a possibility. I don't want it to be a possibility at all.
I like it being deleted. That particular instance, the gentleman talked about the thousands of dollars he spent on plan development just to share his case with us, right? And that kind of gets ahead of that to just tell him, hey, it's not possible. Don't waste your time and money on it.
Right, agreed.
Yeah, I mean, it easily clarified with a not permitted section.
Yeah, we could add a not permitted section, and we have language within our code that generally says that if it's not listed as permitted or conditional use, it's interpreted not to be permitted. We could potentially add that into this ordinance.
Well, that might be better language too, because I mean, if we start looking at what shouldn't be permitted, it could be a long list.
Yeah, and that's,
So if we just have some simple language of if it's not listed as permitted, it's not permitted.
Can't we just leave 157.415 there, 0 lot lines, and underneath it say not permitted? And then we're done.
yeah, we could just add it right there. We wouldn't have to remove the section. We could just say not permitted.
Amy, what are your thoughts on which way is the best way to go?
I think that if you don't want them, that we just leave 157.415 there and just say 0 lot lines are not permitted within the patio
Okay.
ordinance. And then it's just clear, and then it's not a discussion anymore.
Okay.
Everybody happy with that one?
Yep.
Okay.
We can do that. It's not a problem. So the next section is the maximum structure height. So there was a lot of debate about the wording and how to forward this to the city council. The language that was agreed upon is main buildings or dwellings and detached ADUs shall be limited to 1 story in height and shall not exceed a height of 25 feet. Basements and below grade habitable spaces are strictly prohibited. There was a lot of discussion about whether or not to allow a loft space over a garage. The initial language did have that, but in the end, the planning commission didn't really ever feel comfortable with it. We tried adding like a size restriction. We tried adding a bunch of different items to try to limit it in some ways. And in the end, the planning commission just decided to not include, just to cut it out. And so there was some discussion about basements and below grade habitable spaces. Essentially, they didn't want basements, but they were fine if somebody did like a crawl space or like a utility. Like sometimes they put their furnace below grade. And so there was a sentiment that they were okay with that type of below grade space, but it just couldn't be habitable space. And then in landscaping, most of these changes were items that weren't being enforced by the city, partly because we couldn't enforce it anymore. For instance, we're not allowed to require a cash bond for any landscaping of the cities, or any bond that the city's not required or to maintain. And so most of that language was taken out, and it was just changed that all landscaping shall be installed in compliance with the 7 landscaping standards within this title. And those are the changes.
Let me go back to the building height.
Yeah.
So I have some heartburn about not allowing a bonus room in these patio homes. And I understand it's hard to kind of put some language to it to keep that there, but for a lot of these retired folks, when their grandkids come in once a year, they want a space to contain those kids away from all of their house and the things they can't touch, right? Like, I think that's really tough to say. Like, if you go through Nielsen Homes, I think every other one has a bonus room, right? And those are such an important room. I mean, it's not designed for a bedroom, so maybe it can't have a closet, therefore it can't be classified as a bedroom, right? I mean, I think there's ways to work through that. I mean, it could be just a storage room. I just think that that's a big wasted space in a home that already has it in there. It's just a truss redesign, right? And I just think that's a hard thing to say, no bonus room. I think that's.
It doesn't change the height of the building, does it? Yeah.
Doesn't change the height of the building, but I understand that we don't want 2-story patio homes. We got taken advantage of that in the past. We need to make sure we have language that says that it's not, I don't think inhabitable is the right thing, because you have it as a TV room or a kid's room or storage room, whatever it may be.
So the loft, back to the loft, essentially, right?
Maybe you have a definition for bonus room and say it's an allowed patio home bonus room. This room consists of XYZ or something, but what was the planning commission's thoughts and what are the workarounds so we can get ahead of that?
Yeah,
Just to talk
so our last version that allowed it read, only a single habitable room in the attic may be permitted, limited to the area directly above the garage, and shall not exceed 576 square feet, which I think I based off of a standard 2-car garage. And so the concerns they had is they didn't want creep of what that space would be like. Because the questions that you brought up, I think that most of the planning or several planning commissioners also brought up. That they didn't necessarily want it to be a bedroom. They didn't want it to exceed a huge footprint, but found value because most people who buy patio homes are older.
Yeah.
And when they have grandkids or guests or whatever come over, the loft can be valuable. Or, I know somebody who lives in a patio home and they have a bonus room and they use that as their craft room. That's where she sews and does her other projects. That's just kind of out of the way. And so once again, the planning commission, I think they just had, and it's hard to necessarily speak for all of them, but my general impression was they felt heartburn about how we control what that space looks like and to ensure it didn't creep into a full second story, which is why the version that I just read try to limit it to the space directly above the garage and only limit it to the size of a standard 2-car garage. So if they had a 3rd-car garage, for instance, they couldn't go over that space.
And the overall 25 feet.
Yeah.
I agree with you on it.
I-
I just was trying to figure out how we got taken advantage of last time.
What did we get
Plus,
take advantage of that?
well, it didn't say that you couldn't go, and even so, if you do build a bonus room up there, you can eventually build a bedroom out of it. You know what I'm
I
saying?
think it's because we don't have a definition of patio homes in our code.
Correct.
That's how we got taken advantage
Yeah.
of.
So
Everybody assumes a patio home is a single level living, but there's no definition.
yeah,
So that's
the
how it
patio
got
home wasn't
taken.
defined, and all the code said is dwellings or other main buildings shall be 25 feet.
And 25 feet
Okay.
is plenty of room for that bonus area.
Yeah.
Above, but it just allows for extra space as needed without having it on ground level. And so, I don't know, that's a tough one, but I think I don't know what type of language to put in there other than it just couldn't be converted or, or be built as a bedroom or a living space that's considered as a bedroom, because it does have a window. They can have windows. You got stairs going up to it, but it's just within that walls, and usually the walls are short on the side typically when you got your roof in there, but it wouldn't be hard for somebody to throw or kind of closet in there and call it a bedroom.
What is the concern with the bedroom again?
That was my question.
Because if there's like a caretaker there staying with them,
But the problem is last time they built 2 bedrooms and a bathroom up there.
They're not really like elderly homes anymore. They're more like family residence.
right? I'm just thinking of if somebody's there to take care of them and they wanted to sleep in the,
I think the big concern was not having it stay just over the garage. That it creep into,
But once you build it, that's a truss thing. The trusses are built for that specific room.
but I think that if you want to just do the bedroom, room, bedroom, whatever, over the garage, that we specifically say everything is 1 story, however, and put in like a however. There, it is allowed over the garage, but the room can only be this amount of space.
yeah, I don't
bonus
have a
room is
problem with
permitted.
that personally.
Yeah, I don't either.
Even if we say 60% of the garage square footage, right? Because you're never going to get 100% of the garage because you've got the pitch of the roof.
Yeah.
I mean, you could even say 50% of the garage area is the maximum.
Mhm.
I think it's fair to at least offer that, but it doesn't increase height, which you're concerned with. You're trying to keep everything uniform.
Yeah.
And it's still considered, it's livable space. It's kind of wasted if you don't take
It's a
advantage of it.
massive attic for no reason.
So,
We could, if you'd like, if the council would like, I could look at language that we had from the planning commission, incorporate it into the ordinance and bring it back to the council.
I would like that, yeah.
there isn't any rush on any of the ones that we have that we could potentially table on this. There's no rush for any particular thing, is there? So I guess that would be all right to go ahead and just do the review, get the information back, and then we can just hit them again. And they won't be long discussions typically. For that, we can zip through them pretty quick.
Yeah.
I think we'd be all right with that. I think everybody's consent with that. You're okay with that? All right, then I guess, is there anything else, Stephen?
No.
Okay, then I'd just be ready for a motion for that one.
Would move to table ordinance 13-2026. I'm gonna read the rest of it.
We have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? All in favor to table, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries on there. All right, item 8 on here, we have advice and consent of one Arts Council Committee member, appointment submitted by myself, Mayor Vanderwood, to fill a 2-year term. The term will be from June 3rd of 2026 through December 31st of 2027. The name submitted on here is for Sean Malott. Did I say that right? Malott. And really, really nice guy, but has been involved with airbrushing. He does a lot of airbrushing and for 25 years and he does some pretty cool stuff and has a small business, I guess, that he deals with too. But we'd like to just present him and see if you'd like to approve him in there as an appointment.
We'll move to approve advice and consent of one Arts Council Committee member, Sean Malott. Hopefully I said that right. Submitted by Mayor Vanderwood to fill one 2-year term. The term will be from June 3rd, 2026 through December 31st, 2027.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this appointment?
How come that's not a full 2 years?
Because of the time frame probably on there.
They all ended the calendar year.
So we reappoint on there, so.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll let them know that we're all in and ready to go. Item 9 is just a presentation discussion for anything that was extended in from our work session. Do we have anything we wanted to add on that?
Not that, no.
Okay. Anything from the council? Okay. We'll go ahead and move to item 10, which was considered a closed session. We've been recommended or requested to table that till we gather some more information. So we would want to go ahead and do a motion on that. To table.
Moved.
Second.
A motion and a second on that. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion to table that is approved. Item 11 for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Michelle, for being here, and thank you, Lieutenant, for being here as well.
Might need to bring in